you're going to have to be continually taking this to God. You're going to have to dig in to the source of that worry or that fear or that anxiety. You're really going to have to do some deep soul digging as to what it is, where the source is that's causing you to feel this way. And you're going to have to offload all of that in prayer. And in place of that, everything that you let go, that you let free, that you release in prayer, God will replace every bit of it with peace. What's up, everyone? I hope you're having a good December. I hope you're having a good holiday season. Today, I want to dig into a familiar passage of scripture. It's one that we really hear often. It's one that's talked about a lot. It's one that's thrown around and shared a lot. But I think that there's something missing when we generally talk about this passage, and we're going to kind of get into that. And the passage that I have is coming from Philippians. It's in chapter 4, and starting with verse 6. Now, we hear verses 6 and 7 shared often, and I'm going to read this, and we're going to kind of go a little bit past what we've probably normally heard about this passage. And it says, Philippians 4, verse 6 and 7, it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, shall guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Now, we hear this a lot when people are maybe struggling or anxious. Obviously, the be anxious for nothing, that's kind of the first verse that we want to throw at anyone who says that they're feeling anxiety or anything like that. Just anytime we have worry in our life, this is generally a passage that's going to come up, and that's not wrong. However, to stop at verse 7, I believe, is incomplete, because the thought is continued. So as Paul is writing this, he goes on in verse 8, really continuing the thought, and he says, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and if anything worthy of praise, let your mind dwell on these things." And I believe this is where we really need to finish the thought, or whatever it is, when we're trying to minister to people from this passage, because of course we want to not be anxious. We want to not be worrisome. We don't want to let those things really kind of command our lives or drive our lives. And that's correct. And we should, obviously, the Bible is truth. So obviously we believe that anytime we do feel worried, we feel anxious for any reason, we want to take that to prayer. We want to give it to God. We want to allow the peace of God's to rule in our lives. But the problem is, if we stop there at verse 7, we leave ourselves the opportunity to return to that place of worry. And I want to illustrate this to you with the idea of maybe a ship being off course, or even if you're walking a path. So if my let's just say I'm walking a path right now, and let's say my goal is to come straight directly at the camera to you. Now, if that's my path, and if that's the direction that I'm supposed to walk, then granted, this is just a short distance is just a few feet. So it doesn't really give us the fullness of the picture, but I want you to imagine a journey. Let's say it's miles long of a journey, or even a ship on a sea going out on a journey, crossing a sea, or whatever it may be. If you just get a little bit off course, now my path is directly in front of me, but if I just get a little bit off course this direction, eventually as I travel, I get further and further off course. You can see how the distance travels. You can see it if you picture like a triangle in your mind, and if this is my destination point, and then the other line going off course, eventually the further along you get, the farther off course we end up. Now, when we come to God in prayer, as this verse says, with prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, to let your requests be made known to God. That's like getting us back onto the path, getting us back off course onto the path. The only problem is if we don't set a course correction, if we don't point ourselves in the right direction, if we stay continued pointed off, we will continue to veer. We'll continue to go off course. So we may draw ourselves back onto the path and back on course, but if we don't reset our focus, if we don't reset our direction, if we don't get ourselves course corrected, then we will just start to take off on the wrong path again. We'll start to veer. And that's what I believe verse 8 is. And that's why I believe this is so necessary, that it should be included with 6 and 7, because it really, when it comes to dealing with any type of anxiousness, worry, fear, whatever it may be, this is the complete thought, is all three verses. So after we have let our request be made known to God, we receive the peace of God and whatever it is that we may be experiencing. And let me just touch on that real quick. This isn't, this may not just be a one-time prayer. God, I'm feeling anxious about this situation. I'm giving it to you. I want to receive your peace. I want to have peace about this. And then that's it. A lot of times it's not going to be that simple. A lot of times it's going to take continuous prayer, fervent prayer. 1 Thessalonians 5 says to pray without ceasing. Sometimes you're going to have to be continually taking this to God. You're going to have to dig in to the source of that worry or that fear or that anxiety. You're really going to have to do some deep soul digging as to what it is, where the source is that's causing you to feel this way. And you're going to have to offload all of that in prayer. And in place of that, everything that you let go, that you let free, that you release in prayer, God will replace every bit of it with peace. So think of it this way: the more you release, the more God replaces it with his peace. So if you want more peace, release more to him in prayer. Dig into those emotions, dig into those fears, dig into the worry, dig into the thing that's making you anxious. Search all the depths of you, of yourself, and what all could be the source of this. It may not even be in the particular situation or circumstances that you're experiencing. It could be, those circumstances could just be triggering a past memory or a past experience or something along those lines. And you may have to dig into all of that before you actually become overwhelmed by the peace of God that surpasses understanding, before you actually allow that peace to rule your life. So that's just a little bit of a sidebar. But once we get to that place, we get that peace, then our job isn't done. Now we kind of have to set that course correct. We need to refix our focus, and that's where verse 8 comes in, when Paul says, finally, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and anything worthy of praise, let your mind dwell on these things. So it's a reset of our focus. It's a reset of our navigation system. It's kind of like this verse should be a North Star in a sense for us. That when we start to worry, we should catch ourselves and think like, hold on, what am I setting my focus on? I've gone to God, I've prayed about this, I've received his peace, I've offloaded it to the feet of Jesus. Now, why am I starting to go back to this? What am I starting to focus on that is sending my mind back into the place of worry? What is entering my mind that is causing me this worry? And what do I need to release and reset my focus on? Is this true? Is there truth in this? Is there honor in this? Is it right? Or is there something wrong about it? Is it pure? Is it something that would reflect the purity of Jesus? Is it something lovely? Does it come with a good reputation, or does it help promote a good reputation? Is there excellence in it? Is it worthy of praise? And if not, then I don't need to be dwelling on these things. I don't need to be thinking on these things. I need to reset my focus. I need to redirect my thoughts. And this is, we can kind of find some similarities in this through the Bible too. In Colossians 3, right at the beginning of the chapter, it says, if then you have been raised up with Christ. Keep seeking the things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind, verse 2, set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth. So again, we see this reset, this refocus. Set your mind on things above. And of course, we know that everything above, everything heavenly, everything that is from God is going to fulfill all the things that were explained there in Philippians 4, verse 8. The things that are true, that are pure, that are lovely, that are of good repute, that are excellence, all of that. We know that heaven is always going to fulfill all of those things. It will always fit within those parameters. And again, one last verse I want to go to in Hebrews 12. And I've shared about this before in one of the messages that I spoke here on my channel. But right at the beginning, also beginning of this chapter in Hebrews 12, says, therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. So there again, lay something aside that is entangling you. Lay aside the weight that is holding you down. Lay aside the sin, whatever it is. Many times, that is what is going to be causing us some sort of worry or anxiousness, anxiety, fear, whatever it is. There is going to be some sort of weight, some sort of burden, some sort of sin, some sort of encumbrance, something that is either getting us entangled or just weighing us down, just slowing us down. And setting it aside, prayer is the place where we begin. That is definitely the first step. Sometimes it takes more than prayer. Sometimes it takes more steps, more discipline, more just practical steps. Something that you may need to do to live that out beyond prayer, or after you finish with prayer. There's more practical steps to it, but we always begin with prayer. And that's why Philippians 4, that the process there starts with prayer. So lay that aside. Lay all of that stuff aside. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. So again, fix your focus. Fix your eyes on Jesus. Fix your focus on things above. Dwell on these things. Think about things on heaven and not things in earth. So we see this theme kind of reverberated here. And of course, you can do more study and find this in more places of the Bible. But one of the things that I think about with this is when Jesus was walking on the water and he called Peter out onto the water with him. And of course, this is kind of the basics of this passage that we've heard anyone preach about. There's always the portion of this where it's, Peter was walking on water, and as long as he was focused on Jesus, as long as his eyes were on Jesus, he had the authority and he was empowered to continue to walk on the water. The moment he started to look around and notice the circumstances and notice the storm and give his attention to the storm, that was when he started to sink. So as long as we fix our eyes on the things above, as long as we dwell on these things, these good things, as long as we have fixed our focus on Jesus, we will be able to walk on top of the things that try to bring us down, the things that try to cause us to sink, the things that try to overwhelm us, the things that try to drown us in this life. And I love this. One last verse that I want to give is John 14:27. And it's Jesus talking, and he says, "Peace I leave with you. Not as the world gives do I give." And there's an implication here that the world has a version of peace. And I love this because I love Tim Ross. I love The Basement, and he has been teaching this recently, and it's just been so profound to me. This idea that this verse is implying that there is a version of peace that the world gives, but Jesus gives peace that the world cannot give. Nothing of the world has access to the level of peace that Jesus does, and only Jesus can give it. So I see this, I view this is sort of the mental picture that I get, is the version of the peace that the world gives versus the version of the peace that Jesus gives. And the version of the peace that the world gives to me, that I see, this is the image that I get, is like is kind of circumstantial. It's like you're out on a beach somewhere. It's kind of your envisioned paradise, the place that you would like to go on vacation, whatever it is. And so you're sitting out on this nice white sand beach, clear blue water. Maybe there's a couple palm trees around you. You're laid back. You're not sunburnt. You're tanning nice. All the perfect things. You've got your nice little umbrella drink sitting next to you. All this stuff, and you sit there, and it's just a nice cool breeze. The temperature's perfect. If you go jump in the water's not too cold. It's just nice and relaxing. When you get out of the water, there's not too much of a breeze that you're all chilly, but you just still feel nice and warm, and it's just perfect out. Everything around you is perfect, and it's peaceful. And really, it's peaceful because the circumstances around you are peaceful. Whereas the peace that Jesus gives is something that has no predication on external circumstances, but it's everything on the inside. It is a peace that exists on the inside, and it can't be shaken, it can't be taken, it can't be removed, it can't be traded out, it can't be taken from you by anything, no matter what the external circumstances are. On the inside, I still have peace because I walk with Jesus, and I know that no matter what's happening on the outside of me, that my God is greater than anything that happens. So I can have peace on the inside. What's on the outside doesn't need to get in on the inside, because I'm filled with the peace of God, knowing that no matter what storms I may come across in my life, no matter what my circumstances may look like, that my God is bigger than all of them, and he's above all of them. And what I love, going back to Matthew 14, what I love about that is that we see the storm raging around the boat as the disciples are out on the sea. And in Mark 6, so Mark 6 gives the parallel account of when Jesus was walking on the water. This really trips me up, because you look at Mark 6, and it says that Jesus was up on the hill praying before he came out to them on the water, and it says he saw them straining at the oars. So Jesus is up on the hill, he can look down, he sees the storm raging on the sea, he sees the winds and the waves just tossing the boat, and he sees them straining at the oars. It says he sees them struggling. And when he comes out walking on the sea, in Mark's account, Mark says that Jesus came to them walking on the sea, and he intended to pass them by. And this tripped me up, because I'm like, well, hold up, Lord. Why is it that you can see them struggling and straining, but you intend to pass them by? And God showed me that, of course, with Jesus, and many of us have probably heard this before, but with Jesus, he lived as fully God and fully man. So he had the full confidence, the full knowledge of deity, all wrapped in the human flesh. And so when God speaks a word, we know that word is going to come to pass. If God said it, it has to, because he cannot deny himself. He is faithful. His word always comes to pass. It never returns to him void. So we know all this stuff, and this is what we've heard always throughout when people preaching this passage. If you've heard this before, that Jesus said, we're going to go to the other side. So we're going to get there. So since Jesus is the fullness of deity in flesh, he knows this. He has the confidence that they're going to get there. So as he's walking on the water, intending to pass them by, he's just going to the place that he already told them they would end up. He's going to the place where he's going to meet them, where he let them know that they would be. But it says the disciples cried out in the boat, and Jesus got into the boat with them. And once he got into the boat, all the wind and the storm died down, because we don't always have that same confidence, because we don't have the fullness of deity. We're just stuck in the imperfect nature of this flesh, the jacked up, screwed up, broken nature of this flesh. So we don't have that same confidence. So even though God may have told us we're going to get there, sometimes we have to cry out to him and get him into the boat. But the thing I love about this, where I'm kind of bringing this all back around too, is that when Jesus gets in the boat, it says that the wind and the waves stopped. And so once Jesus joined them in the place that they were at, once Jesus got with them in the storm stopped. And I believe that what the Bible really wants to show us here is that the external situation, the effect externally and their circumstances around them, is really a visual illustration of what takes place on the inside when we get our focus fixed right, when we get Jesus into the place with us. We don't have to be taken out of that place, but as long as we can get Jesus into the situation with us, when we can get our mind and our eyes and our focus fixed on the things above, on the things that are good, that are true, that are of good repute, when we can set our mind on Jesus, our focus on Jesus, that storm that rages on the inside immediately becomes still and calm. And it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. It doesn't matter what our life circumstances look like, because we have our mind and our focus set on the one who is perfect and the one who is in control, and on the things of him, the things of his nature, his character. And when we get our focus set in that place, that's when his peace enters in, because his presence is with us. We sense his presence. We're focused on his presence, and there's peace with that. And that peace rules our lives no matter what the circumstances and the situation around us may look like. And those can be completely contradictory to each other, but we can still carry the peace. We can still live in the peace even when the storm is raging in our lives. So I hope this helped you. I know I threw a lot at you. I hope you're able to metabolize this, and anytime that you may be feeling anxiousness or worry, pray it out. By all means, pray it. Give it to God. Live out Philippians 4, 6, and 7. But don't stop there. Reset your focus. Get your mind set on the right things. Course correct. However you need to look at it, or however, whatever terminology, language you need to give to yourself. Reset your mind on the things above. Reset your eyes on Jesus. Dwell on the things of Philippians 4, verse 8. And it takes some work and some intentionality, but it does work, because this Bible is true. This is the source of truth, and it will work in your life if you live it out. So I love you guys. I hope this helps. If you have any feedback, any testimony, you're welcome to share. I'd love to hear it. If you have prayer requests or anything, or you just want to get connected, you have anything to share, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I love hearing from people. I'm all for it. So please don't hesitate. Please don't be afraid to reach out. I love you guys, and we'll see you next time.